of the Verne 1?
Okay, so the Verne 1 is a very, very capable tent, and it's one of those tents that has been compared a lot to the Hilleberg Sulu, and I actually think rightly so, because when you look at, if you kept a tent for 2 years, both of the tents lose kind of an equal amount of value, probably about £200. And that's why I think if you're spending £200 over 2 years for a tent, actually that brings the Verne 1 into the same category as the Hilleberg Sulu. Okay, so let's have a look. What do we get with this then? Absolute unboxing time. Okay, we're in. Here we go. That is literally it. Not as heavy as I was expecting. Very nice feeling bag. I don't think this comes with a footprint, and I think I have to order it separately. There we have the tent itself. Wow, that feels good. And somewhere in here, surely, there we go. There are the poles, and I will find the pegs and get back to you.
So what made you choose the Hilleberg?
Well, okay, so the thing with the Hilleberg Sulu specifically is that it seems to be the benchmark by which all tents are measured. So, including the Verne 1. So you get all these different tents come out and they all benchmark them against the Sulu. And that kind of pointed me in that direction. Now, other tents offer more space for the money, like, again, Verne 1. Fantastic quality tent. We've seen Felman Dave himself climbing all over it. But the problem is, when I'm in Dartmoor and places like that, you only have little pitches that you can camp on. So I need a compact tent. But I also need the headroom, which I don't currently have in the Abisko. You have the tent and the tent bag itself. You have a book showing you lots of different things about obviously how to put it up and how to care for it. Same book seems to cater for both the Sulu and the Sulu Black Label. And over there, get the obviously tent poles with a spare pole as well, and you get 12 of those wonderful DAC tent pegs. You can separate the guy lines, I believe, so you can add another 6 of your own pegs. I'm also going to add some 9-inch pegs for the Winwood guy lines, and then you get a quality control label there. This is all very, very promising.
I think you should have got the Verne.
Yeah, okay. Now, I very, very nearly did, but in next year there'll be another Verne, and the year after there'll be another Verne, and I'll always want the latest one. Whereas with the Sulu, you know, it's a tent that's been there for years and years and years, and hopefully it will last a lifetime.
With all due respect, Headley, can you just get the tent up, please? Because I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, okay. So here we have the tent halfway up. Now, if it was windy, I'd be pulling out these guy lines in advance. In fact, the other side of the tent, which is where the wind will be coming from. And that stabilises this structure as the wind goes over the top. And so at this point, the tent is pretty much secure. The next thing we need to do is clip up the tent to the poles, and then it will be ready. And then we put the guy lines out. And here we have the tent fully pitched. Now, it's not a symmetrical tent at all. That side to the right of the door is the windward side, so you have the wind coming this way, which then protects the porch here. And so you can sit up in this tent and you can do your cooking there when you're protected from the elements. Not going to dwell on this too long because you've probably seen this in other videos, but the tent hooks onto these poles, and then the guy lines, the upper guy lines here, wrap around these poles so that the tent itself pulling away from the wind is actually the poles pulling and not the fabric. Now you've got 2 guy lines going down to each peg. In exceptional wind circumstances, with the upper one I will actually peg it separately and maybe use either a ground anchor like a Delta peg or a 9-inch peg as well. So coming around the tent around here, looking at the tent, this is the windward side. So this is the side where you would pitch it as far as you can into the wind, and that's solid. That's absolutely solid. That's going nowhere. We haven't actually done the guy lines up either. You have this protective rain cap on the top, and underneath that is the single air vent. Now I will say this tent is not very well ventilated. If you get something like the Verne one, you're going to have much better throughput of air. That is a compromise in this tent, but this is a smaller tent, so theoretically you're slightly warmer in it, and I will take the warmth over the condensation. And then coming around the back, not a lot really to tell other than you've got little bits, reflective bits on the tent as you come around. This is the sand colour. You can get it in green, and you can also get it in red, which is what Warren uses. And because Warren has the black label version of this tent, this is why I went for the Sulu, so that when we're camping together it just looks good as well. Now the black label has got 1800 Curlon, this is 1200, so that's got an 18 kilogram tear strength. This is a 12 kilogram tear strength, and I think the guy lines are, I don't know what they're something like 3 millimeters. There's something like 150, 160 pulling force strength. So yeah, at the end of the day, some people say you don't need a tent like this in the UK. I kind of differ. I think when you're up in the Brecon Beacons or Lake District and there's a storm coming in that's maybe not expected, this is just peace of mind and it will help you sleep. There are issues inside. There are only 2 pockets and the zips jangle as well. So I think that's because the tent design is now quite old. I think if they'd have designed it now, they would have maybe made those updates. But Hilleberg they produce good tents, but they don't produce iterations of them very often. Okay, so now inside the tent, and you probably can't see this, but I'm sitting upright and I've got that much headroom. So different to the Abisko, where you're just sort of lying down with the top of the tent on you. It's not a huge tent, it is quite small. So it's a one-man tent, what can I say? But there's room there for my bag. There's a little bit of storage space at the back as well, and there's enough room here for me to prepare food. Now, I don't actually have the footprint yet. I'm going to order that because it didn't come with it. But yeah, it's wonderful, and I think there's enough room in here to live for multiple nights. But again, it is only a one-man tent, but certainly big enough to fit pretty much any air mattress and keep you nice and dry. The inner tent, it's quite taut at the moment, but I think when you pitch it on uneven ground, it's going to be a little bit looser, but not too worried about that. But yeah, it's really nice, and you've got a good view out the door. So, and the material quality is really good. And I know this is just the red label tent, not the black label, but already I can just feel the inner tent feels really strong but soft, and the tent evenly goes down to the ground. This is a very well thought out tent, very, very well thought out. So that's that. It's going to have its first outing probably in Dartmoor in 2 or 3 weeks time, so there'll be a video for that, so please like and subscribe and all that shit. Not quite sure what I was doing with my hand there. Out again with Warren Brand, who'll probably be bringing his Sulu black label as well. I do highly recommend you look at the Verne as well, the Verne one. Very close purchase that, and I know people say you can't compare the two. I think with the depreciation and the cost over 2 years, you can. I think it's a very capable tent, but for me, I wanted something smaller. And so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.